What's up, guys? Today's video is about high efficiency setups for freestyle. I'm mainly talking about 6S. Now, this is a project I've been wanting to do for a very long time, and I'm really excited about it. So before we get too far, let's talk about the old setup that I've been flying for well over a year. This here is my Impulse RC Alien. It's running KISS V1. It's flight controller. It's running the KISS 32-bit 24 amp ESCs. It's got the Silk motors on it. I'm running the 5-inch by 4.3 by 3 props, and I run an Adrenalin 1300 100C battery on this setup. I will put the full description to this setup down below in the description, and I will also put the weights down there for you guys as well. This is the Impulse RC Reverb that I just recently built, and this is for 6S. This setup here uses an Impulse RC Reverb frame. It uses the KISS V2 flight controller. It's using the KISS 32 amp 32-bit ESCs. It has Xnova 2207 1650 kV motors, and I'm currently running 5 by 4.8 by 3 HQ props on it. I'm probably going to be switching to 5 by 5 by 3 HQ props, but it currently has the 5 by 4.8s on it. This is a slightly heavier setup due to the fact that it is running a 1050 milliamp hour 6S battery made by Pulse. And like I said, it's slightly heavier, but not much. I believe it was 40 or 60 grams, but like I said, I'll put the full description of this quad down below, including its weight. So let's get into this quad. This here, like I said, I haven't got to go fly a whole lot. In fact, I've basically gotten to fly none on this yet other than tuning. I've done a lot of tuning, so I have put quite a few packs through it, but I haven't flown it in goggles yet. So tuning will give me a lot of information about a quad. I do a lot of tuning for a lot of people, and I really like to tune, and I have a system that I go through every single time I tune. I tune every quad the same way, and it really gives me a feel for how that quad will perform. So when I tune, I basically do a torture test. I do a lot of punch outs, I do a lot of flips, I do a lot of rolls, and I'm doing them one right after the other, like a torture test, like I've said. So what this will do is it gives me a baseline of like how efficient the quad is. It gives me an idea of how hard I can push the packs. It gives me an idea on how long the flight times will be, and all around, it's a really good baseline to compare two different quads. It's still not as good as just going out and flying them the way you're going to fly, but the nice part is I'm doing exactly the same things to all the quads. So there's a baseline there where when you go out and fly, you may do different things. You may be a little bit more aggressive in one flight than you are the other, where in tuning, I can keep them more accurate between different quads. So the biggest thing I've noticed about 6S so far is it is definitely more efficient. We are overamping our packs, and we are overheating motors because of the high KV, and we're losing a lot of energy in heat. So that, I don't know, I couldn't calculate exactly how much. There may be a way to do it, but all I can definitely tell is when I do that same test on a 4S rig, my motors get hotter, my batteries get hotter. On the 6S rig, my motors come down cool. My batteries come down almost the same temperature as they did after a 2S or a 2C charge. So they're coming down extremely cool, which means more energy is actually making it to the motor and being pushed out through the prop versus in thrust versus being burnt up in heat. So that's a major benefit right there. The other big thing I've noticed is I land at roughly 900 milliamp hours on a 4S setup. Now it's a 1300 milliamp hour pack, but the reason I'm landing at 900 is it will damage the packs because you will start sagging the voltage below 3 volts, especially on cells closer to the positive lead, because that's where it's pulling the power from. So those cells will actually sag more than the other cells, and then when you let off throttle, it dumps the higher voltage into the lower voltage cells, which creates a ton of heat and it damages the packs. On the 6S setup, I was able to also fly almost 900 milliamp hours before I seen enough voltage sag to where it would be a problem and it would start damaging the pack. And that is why the batteries do not get as hot. The other big advantage I've seen is the 6S setup is capable of pulling a little bit more amps, peak amps, but it's short-lived. So that peak is very, very short, and then the amps settle to a much lower amperage than what the 4S setup. So there's some efficiency going on there. From what I've seen, it has more efficiency in the mid-range, and the peak is just roughly about the same, maybe a tad bit more. That basically means it's going to have more top speed by a very small amount, but what it really, really means is more response. It's very, very responsive. The 6S setup is very responsive. And the main reason is 1600 kV moves the torque range lower in the RPM range. So you have more low-end RPM torque to boost the motor up to where it makes peak torque. Peak torque is taking place roughly around the same area, maybe slightly lower than a 4S setup, but because of the additional voltage on a 6S setup, you still have the climb in RPM and the same amount of torque in the higher range. So you've just simply taken what was this much torque on a 4S, and we'll say this is 0 RPM. We'll say this is 0 RPM, and this is full RPM of what that setup's capable of. And right around here is where your torque is taking place on a 4S setup. Same thing, 0 and full on a 6S setup. Torque is coming in here, and it's still ending out here. So we went from here to here, and that's from lowering the kV down, but then adding voltage to keep this here, but to lower this down. That gives you a broader, smoother torque range, or torque curve, and that's great for going from 0 throttle, which would be like coasting through the air, to full throttle to do a flip, a roll, or a pull out of a dive. So I definitely think there's some huge efficiency benefits to going to 6S. I'm really, really excited to get out there and fly it. When I do, I'll definitely be recording it and documenting everything for you guys. So I'm really excited for that. I can't wait to see how that is. If you're wanting to build a similar setup to this, Heli-Nation is now carrying all of Impulse RC parts here in the United States. They've slowly been building up their inventory on Impulse RC. They have the Impulse RC Reverb, they have the 5-inch Alien, they have top plates, bottom plates, arms, and they're also now carrying KISS. So they're centrally located right in Chicago, so they get parts out quick. And if you guys want a discount, feel free to use my promo code High Velocity. I'll leave that down below in the description. Hopefully you guys like this video and have fun flying.